Freedom Fest number 5. This is Barbara Kolm again. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Will Rugel here with me. He's the president of the American Institute for Economic Research and has done a lot of academic work, especially on Friedman, and has also published a biography about Friedman. Welcome, Will. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Will, we were just talking a little bit about what you want to talk about. Is it economic freedom in the 50 states? But I would also have to discuss Friedman with you first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Milton Friedman's an amazing figure in the history of economics and the history of classical liberalism because he wasn't a mere economist. He was also someone who believed deeply in a free society.
Exactly. And so, but his monetary theory, of course, is truly important for us. And you were at a panel yesterday with also AIER folks and scientists, and talking about monetary policy, talking about the Fed, talking about also dollarization and all those kinds of things. So what influenced you most when you were writing Friedman's biography?
I mean, one of the things that comes across in the work of the American Institute for Economic Research, as well as the work of Friedman, is really the danger of, I think, monetary policy that is unmoored from the importance of focusing on price stability and that is allowing discretion by imperfect men and women, right? And in particular, the danger of our monetary policy being impacted by, kind of politics as opposed to, kind of fundamentals. And that's why I think that AIER, we talked a lot about trying to change how the Federal Reserve operates, particularly when it comes to having two mandates, or even 2.5, if you will, if you talk about some of the other things that's kind of like added on. But the importance of, if you're going to have something like the Federal Reserve focusing on price stability, even better would be alternative arrangements. And we're ecumenical in some ways on those, as long as we reduce discretion, things like the Taylor rule or the gold standard or other types of ways in which you can kind of reduce that discretion.
Which is truly important because especially as we see that from Europe, there is no line actually anymore between fiscal policy and monetary policy. Everything is thrown into a basket. Political intervention is everywhere and central banks should operate indifferently.
Well, again, look at the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And, we've seen inflation in the United States. It hasn't been transitory as people claimed. We need to do something different. And, AIER, we're, planning on continuing to do more in that area, including a monetary conference that we're doing in Washington coming up this fall, winter.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Please let us know in time, because then we could also send some people over there to learn.
And we have a great team of scholars who do monetary economics, both full-time on staff and then as part of our Sound Money project. And I think we're one of the places in America that remains committed to looking at monetary economics, being concerned about the causes of inflation, looking at alternative rules or ways in which we can improve our monetary policy. And it's exciting to be part of that.
Well, thank you for doing all that work.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we can collaborate also with your scholars. And we've done that this year for the first time with the Free Market Roadshow, which was very successful. So thank you also for being on that team and defending freedom everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we really believe in at AIER is to be, a kind of good citizen of a healthy ecosystem of classical liberal, libertarian, conservative institutions, because no single institution is going to get that change that we need to, resurrect a more free, a more liberal society. And so we want to be part of that, and we also want to partner with others to do so. Mm-hmm. And so we're always looking for good partnerships out there to meet our kind of common interests.
And since you're a military man as well and highly decorated, and I know you were running on a sharp agenda today, so we will be on time. So my last question to you would be freedom in the 50 states.
Sure.
So what would you tell our audience about those differences?
Yeah. So one of the great things about the United States is we have this federal system in which states can compete. And part of the way they compete is with different types of policies, not only in the economic realm, which is fiscal and regulatory policy, but also in the personal freedom space. And so while federalism has declined in certain ways over the course of American history, it's still quite robust, and the states differ quite a bit. And so Freedom in the 50 States is the book that Jason Sorens and I at AIER published with the Cato Institute. And we've been doing it now for some time. We're just in the 7th edition. We'll be working on the 8th edition coming up soon. And it looks at the different 50 states on over 230 different types of variables. And we find states like New York is the least free state in the United States.
People moving there to Florida?
Well, they are because Florida is the number 2 freest state. New Hampshire is number 1, Florida number 2, but New York is well behind. And so it's not surprising when people vote with their feet, which is, has always been part of American history, is people, moving around. And we find that they're actually moving for freedom and away from the kind of paternalism we see in certain states like New York that isn't just bad for freedom, but bad for prosperity.
Well, we saw that during COVID, especially.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Where people just wanted to flee these places that were being quite draconian.
Well, one last question. You also run the Bastiat chapters, or actually are supported by AIER. Could you tell our audience a little bit more about those chapters and what the goal behind that is?
Sure. Bastiat is an AIER project. We have chapters all over the country, and some even abroad. And there are ways in which people in their localities can gather with other like-minded folks and talk about different issues related to classical liberalism and economics. And we're also experimenting with lots of new ways with Bastiat. We're in the kind of process of really trying to upgrade that program to include not just our chapter models, but other approaches where we can get people together to talk about ideas in one format or another.
Well, and just for the audience, Frédéric Bastiat, the social philosopher, the French one, who also, this famous quote, "When goods cross borders, weapons won't." So maybe we have time next time when we see each other again to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, we could definitely talk foreign policy. I gave a speech yesterday on that.
I know.
I think Europeans would find my views either enormously frustrating or very welcome, given the fact that the foreign policy establishment in Washington has been so stuck in, I think, a past model of thinking about the world, particularly European relations. I would like to see more European autonomy, more burden sharing, burden shifting. But again, we'll leave that dangling for our next conversation.
Yes, I would love to do that. Well,
Great.
Thank you very much for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.